2022 has been such an exciting year for film, and I think we can confidently say that movies really are back. We watched glorious visual and thematic chaos unfold on the big screen. We watched filmmakers process their own lives and inspirations. We saw razor-sharp satire, we saw spectacle, we saw stunning original films alongside sequels that are just as impressive. It's been a pretty wild ride, and this top 10 definitely reflects that. Each of these movies I'm going to talk about has surprised and impressed me. Each of them was an unforgettable experience, and many of them took me on emotional journeys I was not expecting. So here are my top 10 favorite movies of 2022. At number 10, to get this party started, I am going to open with X, which is officially my favorite horror film of the year, and it was a great year for horror. Also, somehow the movie I rewatched the most out of everything on this list. Listen, I just think it's a lot of fun. Set in 1979 in rural Texas, this slasher finds the perfect balance between dark humor and horror. One scene is going to have you laughing with all these characters who are on a mission to make a great adult film titled The Farmer's Daughters, and the next one will have you wincing because things got gruesome really quickly. It can be scary, it can be gory, it can be silly, it can be funny, and it's also definitely horny. It's basically the perfect cocktail for a great slasher, and I love when a slasher is done right. Plus, let's not forget that X also showed us what a wonderful scream queen Mia Goth can be. Does it heavily reference the Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Yes, it does, but Ty West manages to do this while still keeping the movie refreshingly original, complete with an unforgettable final girl. But of course, it's not just about the final girl. All of the characters are memorable, the actors portraying them have a lot of personality, the kills are fun, and the way X incorporates its main theme of living your life to the fullest while you can into a slasher plot actually works really well. Just talking about it makes me want to rewatch it yet again. For number 9, we're changing gears completely, going from a movie that doesn't take itself too seriously to a movie that takes itself very seriously, even though it's dealing with comic book characters. It's The Batman in all of its dark and brooding glory. I actually rearranged this top 10 last minute so I could include The Batman, and I'm so glad I gave it that last minute second viewing, which is what pushed it into this ranking. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed it the first time around, but the rewatch was very satisfying. This Fincher-esque crime thriller take on The Batman, directed and co-written by Matt Reeves, is deliciously moody, gritty, and dark. And while I do wish we got to see more than just the angsty side of the character, I think Robert Pattinson does a fantastic job here, and I'm really looking forward to seeing him in the sequel. The rest of the cast is amazing. I loved Paul Dano as the Riddler, Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman, and the unrecognizable Colin Farrell as the Penguin. There are so many memorable, beautifully shot scenes. I particularly loved the way the lighting is used throughout the film. I also really appreciated that none of the brutality was casually brushed off. All of the violence has an impact, and that goes hand in hand with the overarching idea of examining vengeance. What does it really achieve? What does it inspire? Is it ever the solution, and is it ever enough? All of that, combined with the ominous, atmospheric visuals and one of the best film scores of the year, easily earns The Batman the status of one of the best movies of 2022. At number 8, I have the only movie on this list that I will most likely never watch again because it is way too effective. All Quiet on the Western Front. This is an incredibly impactful and striking World War I film based on the unforgettable novel by Erich Maria Remarque. The story follows a young German soldier who enlists in the army with his friends and is immediately faced with the brutal reality of war. he was absolutely not prepared for. His idealism, magnified by pro-war propaganda, is instantly shattered on the battlefield. A lot of what makes this film so effective is built on contrast, whether it's the quiet beauty of nature disturbed by explosions, or the chaos of action followed by the stillness of the dead, the tender moments of humanity and friendship next to brutality, or the world of difference between the people who are making decisions and the people who are doing the fighting. Even the score has this blaring element to it that cuts through everything and startles you every time it happens. Visually, it's an insanely impressive looking film, and I would love to see a cinematography nomination for All Quiet on the Western Front because it communicates just as much visually as it does through dialogue, including a scene that features tanks and somehow makes them feel almost apocalyptic. I have never seen a more terrifying portrayal of tanks on film ever. It's not an easy movie to watch, but I would strongly urge everyone to watch it because sadly, humanity still needs regular reminders about what war means and how it destroys everyone, regardless of whether they survive or not. Also, please read the novel. It is incredible. At number 7, I have a movie that I already knew was going to be crazy going into it, but let me just say this. They handed out vomit bags at the screening and somehow they were definitely appropriate. So yeah, Triangle of Sadness is quite the ride. Ruben Östlund's second Palme d'Or winner is a hilariously ruthless satire that took me on a roller coaster of reactions. You might love it, you might hate it, you might feel conflicted or uncomfortable, but it will not leave you indifferent. Most of the film revolves around two models/influencers who are invited to go on a luxury cruise, but when the ship hits some rough water and things don't quite go according to plan, the power dynamics begin to shift and things really get interesting. Yes, it's over the top. No, it's not subtle, but it is incredibly observant of humanity. The film explores beauty, status, influence, perception, and even morals as currency in the modern world. Just like in his previous films, Ruben Östlund is able to raise important questions while still keeping things really entertaining. And I am sure the irony of the central scene where an American socialist captain and a Russian capitalist businessman relentlessly argue about their ideologies while the passengers are succumbing to seasickness won't be lost on anyone. Even though at 2 hours and 20 minutes, it definitely feels a bit too long, it is an impressively effective satire and black comedy. It is Ruben Östlund's strongest film to date, and it was one of the most fun theater experiences of the year for me. At number 6, I have the blockbuster sequel that ruled them all last year, Top Gun: Maverick. Joseph Kosinski, Tom Cruise, thank you for saving movie theaters last summer and also for creating the most entertaining blockbuster in years because it's simply awesome. If you, for some reason, didn't see Top Gun: Maverick on the big screen, I am genuinely sad for you because you missed out. This wasn't just one of those rare sequels that surpassed the original, which would have already been impressive. It's a great movie that sweeps you off your feet because it has everything you could want from a blockbuster. Characters you want to root for, a charming movie star in the lead, breathtaking visuals, edge-of-your-seat action, great sense of humor, big stakes, and a big heart. It embraces everything people enjoyed about the original Top Gun, what made it so iconic, and then celebrates and elevates it. It respects the genre and its viewers. It's not embarrassed by the nostalgia. It's not ashamed of itself. It's not scared of going for big emotions, and because of that, it never feels false or insincere. There weren't many movies last year that filled me with such genuine joy as Top Gun: Maverick, And if at the beginning of 2022 you told me that this was going to be the case, I would have laughed at you. But here we are. I saw it multiple times in theaters. It was intense, it was thrilling, it was exhilarating, and it put a huge smile on my face. At number 5, I have a dazzling movie that features one of the best lead performances of the year, next to one of the most bizarre supporting performances of who knows how long. I am, of course, talking about Elvis, which was the kind of spectacle only Baz Luhrmann could deliver. In case you missed my review, yes, I loved Elvis that much, and watching this film for the second time was even better. So much has been said about Austin Butler's transformative performance already that this almost feels redundant, but I will say it again. He is unforgettable and he brings everything to this role. He's charismatic, he's vulnerable, he's passionate, he's emotional, the physicality is there, he is committed, and he's channeling Elvis on a level that feels incredibly authentic. But for me, this wasn't simply a movie dominated by the lead performance. I genuinely enjoy Baz Luhrmann's vibrant, joyful maximalism, and there really aren't many filmmakers these days who can pull this off. For a biopic about a larger-than-life performer, I think there really was no other way to do it. You have to go all out. You have to put on a spectacle, but you also have to be able to show how this American dream becomes a tragedy. The film is captivating, colorful, hypnotic, and thankfully, it doesn't follow the traditional biopic formula. Elvis may not be everyone's cup of tea, but the director's distinct style and the irresistible lead performance bewitched me from beginning to end and made me come back for more. Don't you ever change, Baz Luhrmann. At number 4, I have what is undeniably the best dark comedy of the year, The Banshees of Inisherin. It's beautiful, it's haunting, it's funny, it's sad, and it's about friendship. What else do you even need from a movie like this? Here's what we found out thanks to Martin McDonagh. A story about a friendship breakup is a surprisingly relatable topic for many of us, and we need movies like this in our lives. Dark comedies are a difficult genre to pull off, but The Banshees of Inisherin is a masterclass in how a movie can walk the line between humor and drama, even getting into some bleak corners of the human experience like hopelessness, grief, and despair. It also explores the destructive nature of pointless stubbornness and how far things can get if you keep letting them escalate, and yet it does so in a playful way. It's a beautifully made, heartfelt film featuring vivid, memorable characters and performances that are just as remarkable. Whether you take this story as it is or look at it as an allegory of the Irish Civil War, the film has so much to offer its viewers as it ponders what's more important, being nice or being remembered. As we are all eventually faced with mortality, what is actually worth spending time on? I know this sounds heavy, but I promise this movie is also hilarious. Plus, the In Bruges reunion of Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson was something I didn't know how much I needed. So here we are at my top 3, and these 3 movies couldn't be more different, but I absolutely adore them. I love my entire top 10, but these top 3 are incredibly special to me. Opening this top 3 is Babylon. I loved Babylon. There is no doubt in my mind that this will become a cult classic down the road, and will be considered a ridiculously underrated gem. Damien Chazelle did not hold back in this epic period piece about Hollywood's transition from silent film to talkies. It's chaotic, it's wild, it's vibrant, and it's his most ambitious project to date. I really do not understand the amount of hate this film gets, because out of every movie about the magic and impact of making movies that came out this year, and there were many of those, Babylon was the one where I really felt it. Every time it shows a film set, you see how out of absolute chaos and absurdity, movie magic is born. Every time it shows how messy the characters are, it's because the industry is messy. And after being inspired by this film to start reading and learning about Hollywood of that time, it's so interesting to see how much of Babylon was inspired by real stories and real people who were, in fact, messy. The visuals are stunning, the energy is electrifying, the cast is fantastic, with Margot Robbie operating at an 11 in almost every scene, and the score is something I can't stop listening to. It's a movie I adored the first time around, but somehow loved even more on my second viewing. Chazelle himself described it as a hate letter to Hollywood, but a love letter to cinema. And this absolutely comes through in this film as we watch talented, passionate people create art that lives on while the system destroys and discards them. I am willing to fight anyone who tells me this is a bad film because this insane, bittersweet Hollywood epic is outstanding, and I will die on this hill. Babylon is chaos and excess, but it's also driven, emotional, and wildly entertaining. For number 2, I'm going from excess to control, as this film is a fascinating character study that feels so real it makes you wonder if maybe it's actually based on a real person. I am talking about Tar, a brilliant, exquisitely written drama starring Cate Blanchett. See, I told you my top 3 is as different as it gets because Todd Field's Tar exercises as much restraint as Babylon, well, doesn't. This psychological drama examines power dynamics through the lens of the rapidly changing modern world, and it manages to touch on relevant, charged topics without being preachy. It thrives on ambiguity, and instead of telling the viewers what to think, it gives them a lot to think about and trusts them to come to their own conclusions. I love reading people's comments about this movie under reviews, including my own, where they think they know what Todd Field's take on modern society is because of how different those opinions are. This just goes to show how much of a Rorschach test this character study is, even down to the ending, for which I've heard interpretations all across the spectrum. It's by no means confusing to follow. The story itself is very straightforward, but it's not going to teach you a lesson. It's going to challenge you to think for yourself. Tar is easily the best written film of the year, and I cannot imagine anyone other than Cate Blanchett who would be able to bring this deeply flawed yet fascinating and complex character to life. The visual storytelling is just as strong as the dialogue. The approach to discussions about structure and politics of power, cancel culture, ambition, and greatness versus fallibility is layered and nuanced. Tar is simply brilliant in every way. And finally, at number 1, yes, it's still Everything Everywhere All at Once, because of course it is. This was a cinematic experience like no other, unique in so many ways, but ultimately it was a film that filled me with so much joy and hope that from the moment I watched it, I knew there was no way any other film was going to be able to top this for me in 2022. I will never get tired of praising Everything Everywhere All at Once, because even the fact that this film exists, that it actually came together as well as it did, despite how utterly insane it is a miracle in and of itself. It's a sci-fi film that involves the multiverse, and yet it's a personal drama about an immigrant family and the power of love. It's a story for mothers and daughters, and it's about the disconnect between generations. It's a comedy, a fun action film, and a philosophical look at life and its endless possibilities. It's a movie about choosing hope over nihilism, love over anger, and overcoming the chaos that surrounds us as well as the chaos inside us. It has heart, it has satire, it has pop culture references, it's going to make you laugh, it's going to make you cry, and it's going to make you feel pure cinematic joy. How could I possibly not love this film? It truly lives up to its title, as it actually does give you everything, everywhere, and all at once. And in less capable hands, this would have turned into an overstuffed mess. But Daniels knew what they were doing, and they managed to create a one-of-a-kind film that touched so many people's hearts. It's an endlessly rewatchable movie. It's the easiest 10 out of 10 I gave this year, and I only gave 2 of those. And I sincerely hope 2023 is able to give me a film that I can love as much as Everything Everywhere all at once. And that is it for my top 10 favorite movies of 2022. This video came a little bit later than usual, but I am so glad that I took the extra time to rewatch some of these films and make sure this is a list I am really happy with. Please let me know your picks for your favorite movies of the year. I cannot wait to see them, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. I will see you very soon in my next video. Bye.